Hello, you guys. Hi. Welcome to Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson. I'm your host, Dr. Lakeonda Jefferson. So I have a lot of things that we're going to get into today. So this is definitely going to be a show that is packed with a lot of different levels of maneuverability. So we're going to go from one place, then take it to another place. I'm going to turn this light down a bit on my screen because it's like you guys are really close today. So I was in the process of putting these chips in a bag. That's what I was doing. Um, yeah, I was, and now I'm not because I don't know what I did with the bag. But anyway, um, Life Discussions with Dr. Jefferson is an accountability channel. So channels that hold folks accountable for issues that are impactful towards Black and Brown people in America and abroad, the experience of being Black and Black American, should I say. And we try to demystify some of the things that hold us back, but also create some level of congruence and some level of empowerment when it comes to things that hold us down internally, right? Make us feel mentally drained. So I want to be able to offer a source of empowerment and encouragement, education, elevation, and insight to you guys. Um, when I can. I am a psychotherapist, but I'm sure that, as you guys sat through all of that information that you read during the intro, you know that I am definitely not here to diagnose you or the next person. However, I can give you guys lots of helpful tips as to how you can navigate life through the various components of distress and make meaningful changes in your life if that's what you're looking for. So, let's get to the accountability conversations, right? I have been under the weather, okay? So I've not been able to come and share with you guys the intent of my heart from last week, which was an expansion on our polyamorous polycule, different types of structures in polyamorous relationships. We had a really, really, really great comprehensive conversation about monogamy, non-monogamous, exclusive relationships, and polyamory, the difference between the different types of or subsites or sub-architects of relationships and people having healthy relationships regardless of what dynamic or structure they decide to walk right into. Today we're going to talk about the intricacies of a couple of more. I am going to cover a couple of them at a time because they can be a little bit complex, and I know it can be really overwhelming for the person who is listening to all of it and trying to make it make sense for them. Okay. So, I first want to start off by saying shout out to the chat because you guys are always super amazing. And I'm inviting you guys to definitely share with me in this experience. And I want it to be collaborative. So bring your questions, whatever those questions are. If you have questions during the show that I cannot get to, I will definitely return and get to them after the show. I am also trying to catch up on the content of kind of like people who have gone back and watched my content thereafter and then commented. I'm trying to catch up on those comments. Just give me some time. I'm going to work it all through. Okay. There is a lot going on right now. I know a lot of people are going through a lot. The distress is crazy. Folks are dealing with not only the Delta variant, but also some very complex contagions in general in these hospitals. It's absolutely crazy. It's insane. And I'm just like, my heart is with you guys because I'm here right with you. So, let's jump right into this. How about that? So I think that we're going to start off kind of combating this really, really heavy one. And it's a really big, I think what makes it so big is that for me, I think it answers a lot of the questions that a lot of people have been asking. Also, I know there are like a tremendous amount of whole Kevin Samuels fans and stuff like that, and folks out there that are like, oh, cancel that guy. Yeah, him, Kevin. He's responsible for my lack of self congruence and all that good stuff. Um, And I know that you guys see these like titles of some of the content. And what's interesting to me is that Kevin Samuels fans are a protect Kevin Samuels at all costs type of, group of people, but you guys don't really read or watch the videos. And then you comment based on don't know what you're commenting off of because you're not watching the content. So sometimes you gotta open a book. You ever heard that whole saying, don't judge a book based on its cover or something like that? You should definitely take a listen into that. Okay. So, but don't worry, this is accountability channel. We are really and truly about accountability 100% across the board here today. I want to go ahead and say that my moderators, as you guys come in, I want you guys to do your jobs because today I don't have my producer available for the show, but we're going to keep the show moving forward. And moderators, if you see comments that are not worthy of being posted in the chat, do your job, remove those comments so we can move forward and we can have a great show. It's all about positive energy, reviewing this content and talking about and then updating you guys on the things that we've talked about in previous episodes, but also answering questions that are definitely needed. What's going on, Mr. Brooks? How are you? So, and at the end of this, I am going to open it up. Give me just a second. I need to close. I have so many things going on, you guys, with this Facebook thing and stuff like that too. But so at the end of all of this, I'm going to open it up for you guys to come on and have these discussions if you want to have them with me live here on the panel. Okay, I'm going to share the link. So I'm going to read. Man. And before I read this, I want to kind of put a disclaimer out there. Please understand that because I am a psychotherapist, sometimes the content that people send to me is very sensitive and it can be triggering. This particular post that I've read is definitely one that's triggering. Okay. For a lot of people, especially if you've been exposed to suicide or people who have been in a place where they felt helpless and hopeless and felt suicidal and they express that to you, or if you've been there yourself. I think we're all in the middle of a very serious shift right now globally. The pandemic has definitely affected the way that people relate to other people, the way that people process and go through the process of grief, right? So the way that we process grief is something separate than our process of going through the different phases of grief. I want to make sure that I make that very clear. I do a lot of grief work in my work. And it's hard for some folks to really understand the impact of their actions on people who are directly connected to them. So after I read this, it's definitely, I think, a great selection because it lets us see the impact that people have on other folks, even when they feel like they're just out here living their best life, right? And they're not responsible for anybody but themselves. So it says, I've been depressed and suicidal because of my mom's OnlyFans. I'm 13 and my mom is 33. Things at school were never great. I'm sort of short, so I get picked on some, but it was manageable. That was until one of my classmates shows me a picture of my mom naked. I almost had a panic attack and had to be excused from the classroom. I ended up not showing up to school for a few days / faking sick. I was hoping that things would cool off, but they didn't. As soon as I got to school, almost everyone in my class was staring and laughing at me. This has been going on for about a week now. I was wondering how my classmates even got the pictures, and apparently my mom advertises her OnlyFans on her personal Twitter account. Some students from the school follow her, so they were able to see the nudes, and they have been spread everywhere. I don't even have a Twitter account, so I don't know about any of this. The worst part is when I confronted, man, it's a lot. Let's go back. I was wondering how my classmates even got the pictures. Some students from my school were able to see the news. They even spread everywhere. Um, okay, the worst part is when I confronted my mom about this, she told me that I was overreacting and that sex work is basically the same as working at a bank or grocery store. She also said it makes her feel good about herself and that I should be happy that she's more confident now. I told the principal, but they can't suspend thousands of students or take anyone's phone. I've been crying in my room every day for the past week. I don't think I can make it anymore. So, this kid posted this story on every outlet that she could reach prior to actually, somebody intervening and calling crisis for her. This is it's it's beyond me. Hey, Miss Sandy, how are you? It's beyond me. So, um, I talk about this a tremendous amount on this channel. Okay. Um, in our community, we have an issue with accountability. Okay. And that expands exponentially from us as parents to our children, right? When we don't address the issues that need to be addressed, when we don't call a thing, okay? Um, there are an influx of young people who have been given the freedom of their sexuality, sexual expression, their bodies, and they're out here living their best life, literally, their best life according to some song. However, they have children, right? And here is the thing, you guys. When when young people have children, right? And they haven't even been cultivated themselves into adult people because they're young people. So age is not maturation. Youth is it's a point of contention. It's a mind frame, it's a mindset, if you will, right? So if you have a young mindset, if you are a person who really believes, if you are a person who really believes that what you do doesn't impact other people, I have absolutely no idea where it is that you came from, who birthed you, who made you. I have no idea. But we are all systemically connected. All of us are systemically connected. So whether it's the person down the street, or it's the person down the hall, or it's the person right next to you on the bus, or it's the person who is sitting on a bench, or the person at the grocery store, we all have a level of congruence when it comes to us recognizing that we have some level of accountability to the next person. And it's interesting to me that people ask the question, they're like, well, what relevance is that, to you? Or why do you fucking care? You know what I mean? Like, people ask those questions, right? But they don't go deeper into the fact that why don't you care? Right? Why don't you care enough to be able to be an impact to help people through these situations that are difficult for them? Even if you're not an expert, right? Everybody can hold space. And I think that sometimes we have to be, accountable to that. You said, yes, there. My best friend from college just found her daughter at 20, got it on. Right. And I've seen I've seen some very atrocious things happen, okay? Um, it's really important for me to protect my energy center. And that's what I tell people all the time. Please protect your energy. Please protect yourself. Protect your self space, because You cannot be whatever it is that you're required to be for the people that are connected to you if you're not congruent, if you're not whole, right? So put yourself first, care enough to know when to step back, to disengage, so that you can keep yourself whole for what it is, who it is, how it is, what systems there are that are needing you. Okay. So for this young lady, my advice is this: Child Protective Services is overwhelmed right now. That's just the truth. Um, but call Child Protective Services, call a police officer. For you to have gone to a principal, though, this accountability to me is on professionals in the industry that are responsible for protecting children. Okay. So my problem is people who are in the school system. It's interesting, and people just continue to invest and put their time and attention into school systems, and the school systems are simply not doing what it is that they're supposed to be doing. They're not only responsible for teaching your kid, but essentially teachers are mandated reporters. So are principals, mental health advocates, and mental health workers, and mental health counselors, school counselors. All people who have any interaction with children are mandated reporters. Okay. That means that we don't have a choice. We can't decide what it is we're going to report and then decide what it is we're not going to report. But when kids report a issue of this magnitude, we have a duty to report. And if you don't, literally, you can be fined and imprisoned. So these are things that you need to keep in mind. For this young lady, I really hope that she gets things together and that you move in a place that allows you to get the help that you need, the services that you need. Because here's the thing: I know a lot of folks make a lot of fuss about how CPS is definitely not for the family, not for the child, not for the parent, not for the system. But let me put this out here. Sometimes families do not qualify for systems help until they have been reported on. And some people don't even know that these are resources that are available, i.e., parent classes. Um, there you go, Casey. So that's the part that addresses the mom. If a person makes if I make a CPS report, right? The CPS report goes to the mother of the child and provides services in the home, or removes the child from the home because then we deem that the home is unfit. Based off of what she said, this isn't enough for her to be removed from the home, but it's definitely enough to get services in the home. So that looks like adequate parenting classes and, to steer the mom in the right direction. Because here's the other part: parenting does not come with a manual. However, we have lots of parenting classes that help people realign themselves with their purpose, and redefine passion for parenting. Believe it or not, I have lots of people who participate in my parenting class, and they say that they learned a tremendous amount, even after they're really pissed off after CPS has been involved. And that's because the girth of information that's there, you can't just go out and get that anywhere, right? The internet is a great source of information, but not really. Not really. So Mr. Brooks says these young girls want to live their lives early as possible. They want 2 houses and a full-time nanny, and 20 years old is the money. I totally agree. OnlyFans allow broke people to become rich overnight, but not the mindset. I agree with that as well. So here's the biggest component here. I remember when I started off, you guys, I was telling you guys about how much feedback I've gotten from Kevin Samuels followers. Now with these followers of Kevin Samuels attempting to protect him at all costs of whatever it is that they go by over there in their little cult, I feel like you guys have to understand something. This is an accountability channel. And even if you don't understand that, let me make this very clear to you. Don't come for me. Just don't. Here recently, Kevin Samuels reached out to O'Shea Duke Jackson in response to someone who came for him, a pastor here in Atlanta. I don't need to do that. I don't need to do that. So this is an accountability channel. An accountability channel is a channel that puts out information, accurate information about the facts. If the facts are subjective, then we debate those particular facts, right? And then we can agree to disagree. You can come on the channel, share your insights. You can give me further understanding as to why it is you feel the way you feel and you feel compelled to do whatever it is that you do. Because at the end of the day, I'm only here because those things that you're doing or saying or feeling have a direct impact on the Black and Brown community, because that's all I'm concerned about. Yep. There's that. So, you know, says, how severe is the psychological damage on the kid? He's going to have to see a shrink for the rest of his life. So the first thing is that, we're not shrinks. We don't operate to shrink the brain. We operate in a capacity that helps to expand understanding, cognition, emotional resonance, and of course, behaviors, right? Hold on. My signal is like not great. Apparently, I've got people gaming in my house, right? So give me a sec. I think I want to. Yeah, that's it. All right, so now we should be good. Miss Sandy says it's not a cult. What is it? How would you define you guys' association of members? Forget, most of these kids were never wanted, and the fast money will allow them to live both mother and hot girl summer. Honey, I agree with that. Okay, now that's the thing, and it's sad because the reality around it is this, right? If that's your mindset, and if we are people who increase that mindset, we increase the support around that mindset as a culture, by way of not addressing the things that are incongruent. Because see, I think what happens is people get body positivity misconstrued with hotivity. Just gonna put it out there and gotta call a thing a thing. And so we have to understand, if we are people who value legacy and who value, the integrity of the Black community, the essence of what it means to be Black, and the empowerment component to that, right? So not the decorative things about being Black, but the things that help us to elevate. We are people who impress upon our children the importance of responsibility. As a result, they step into places where they understand their responsibility to mold, shape, and cultivate their young people. And they do so in a way that doesn't misalign themselves with the role of a parent and what that looks like as far as modeling behavior. So obviously, this young girl's mom feels like she is without a responsibility component there. Nobody's holding her accountable. So I'm 100% for the entirety of the system being held accountable. But my thing is, when somebody's getting paid to do a thing, you're educating staff and they refuse to do their job, we have a larger problem here. Okay. Like, the system is literally set up to support these kids, because the reality is, whether we want to accept it or not, is that we live in a society of very irresponsible parents, irresponsible young people. Okay. And the hypersexuality, the lack of accountability of these young people, that's what leads to the detriment of the youth that we have, who is our future, right? Dying off early and tragically, so to speak. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see this one, right? So many of you have sent me several emails asking me about the situation with Alexis Wilson, the 19-year-old girl who was shot in Dalton, Illinois. right? So update. I kind of gave you guys the deets, right, before they were released to the public. You guys got to hear first. Like I said, the body cam footage demonstrates the police officers showing up to the scene after a gun had been brandished, and the staff had been threatened with a weapon, and they called police out at 1 something in the morning. Police arrive on the scene, and the police officers then, approach the vehicle, and they kindly ask the two individuals to step out of the vehicle, show their hands, blah, 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 going through all that good stuff. And the young man who was in the car with Alexis stepped out of the vehicle, showed his hands, stepped to the side, and, went to the, rear end of the car, excuse me, for questioning, frisking, blah, blah, blah. This is where the arresting officer asked Alexis to step out of the vehicle, to which she refused, and she said, "I don't have on any clothes. I'm naked." That's what she said. And she didn't have on any bottoms. Now, I told you guys we needed to be asking the larger question here, okay? This young man's in the car with her. Her father and her mother are on camera trying to hold police accountable for her death, right? But when we're doing these accountability conversations, I think you guys got to look at a system that is inadequate in preparing these young people to go out here in these streets. Literally, okay? So she says she's naked. The police officer said, okay, well, you can cover up. She had on a house coat and a tank top, no bottoms, no drawers, no nothing. So she refused to get out of the car, and they were called out because she had a weapon. So you must get out of the car, right? You gotta get out of the car. At any rate, the officer reached over, attempted to take the keys out of the car, so she couldn't drive off, and asked her to get out of the car, and then tried to pull her from the vehicle, tried to remove her from the car forcibly. At which point, young lady put the car in drive, drove off with him, hit another officer, hit the police cruiser, and once she started driving towards the other officer that she hit, shots were fired because she was using her vehicle at that point as a weapon. Also, the vehicle, the officer inside of the car, there were several shots fired, you guys, several. Quite sad. But, in her exchange where she's cursing these police officers out, and she's saying that she don't have on any clothes, and they're saying, okay, well, you have on a house coat, cover it up, or we'll give you, what did he say? Yeah, give her. They offered to give her something to cover herself up with, okay? But she refused to get out of the car. Then she, of course, used the vehicle as a weapon and tried to kill police officers, in which she was shot. And then, of course, she ended up dying from her wounds. And she also caused over $100,000 in damage to a neighboring bicycle shop in which she ran into. Anyway, civil rights attorney. Let's get back to the accountability component with him. Okay. So the civil rights attorney is the person that I pointed out in all of this. Knowing what the process is for officer-involved shootings, especially given the highlight of all of the issues in the Black and brown community right now, decided to contact this family. And I know that this family knew their daughter. So these two things are in alignment, perfect symmetry, for a couple of reasons here. When parents have a lack of accountability, and I'm just going to say it, and we're going to call it a thing. When parents have a lack of accountability, so do children. Children become adults, and they behave irresponsibly. So if you know that you've done a thing that is against the law, and the police officers have a job to protect and defend innocent citizens, civilians, and uphold the law, right? If that's their job and they're there to do their job, you got a couple of options here. You could easily say, hey, well, yeah, I know you were called out for a gun, blah, blah, blah. I got the gun. It's here. By the way, the gun was recovered. The gun was recovered from the car. Not to say that her parents didn't already know that she had a gun in the car, because I felt like that was BS when we first saw the story, period. Yes, it's a very sad event that we've lost another kid, right? But if this is something that is preventable, what are we doing as Black parents when we don't hold people accountable for what their children are doing, when they stand behind their kids and support when they know that they were wrong? What happens is we end up contributing to the cycle of insane violence that we're seeing every single day. That's what we do. That's what we do. We contribute to people like the young lady who shot the 40-year-old woman point blank right after a funeral in her head. We do that. That's our fault. When we say, oh, well, that's their business, the only ones that matter is when police shoot our kids, we contribute to that. Okay. All right. By the way, in New York, in that same area, in the same 24-hour period, another 5 or 6 people were shot. This is a thing, people. We are in a state of emergency. The Black community, the Black consciousness is in a state of emergency right now. Literally. So let's press on. Let's press on, you guys. Okay. Let's just do that. So let's talk about Tiny TKO. I'm telling you, it's crazy. It's crazy. So Tiny TKO put out a story. Somebody sent it to me, and to answer your question, I did see it. Okay. I will not replay it because I have a respect for people who have died as a result of incongruence in Black people being able to manage and sort out their arguments, disagreements, self-acceptance, come to a place of accountability for who they are. So last year, earlier part of the year, a young lady was hawked down and her car was hit, and then she was assassinated, took a couple of bullets to the head by a couple of men who were having sex with one another, and the young lady happened to see them having sex with one another, and she put the information on social media. Within minutes, she was dead. Broad daylight. These are things that are happening in the daytime, y'all. Daytime. Witnesses say they never saw anything like it in their life, in real life. They saw it on TV, but like not in real life, right? And this was in Indiana. So says this reminded of the 4 girls that drowned while stealing a car and running from the police. Exactly. That story about Alexis. Exactly. So Tiny TKO played the young lady's video clip of her viral video that led to her death, and responded jokingly to it after this young lady was murdered in the streets. There are no words. I know that you guys oftentimes have this mindset that because I have spoken on the avoidance of Kevin Samuels during his interviews around his sexuality, right? That there is something that says that I dislike Kevin Samuels because he is or isn't a part of whatever community, blah, blah, blah. If Kevin Samuels is a part of the LGBTQIA plus community, then God bless him. Whatever it is that he needs, go for it. Okay. Either way, I still do not like Kevin Samuels. He's not a content creator that I like. He never will be. Okay. Is there validity to some of the things that he speaks on? Of course. You know, even a broken clock is wrong once a day. Right? I'm on Zulu time here. But so none of that is important to me. right? What is important to me is the way that we as women think that it is ammunition in the Black community to hold a man's sexuality or questions about his sexuality over his head and use that as firepower in an argument. You know what? Some things you really just can't make this stuff up. Literally, there is a there is a reason Kevin Samuels exists. I don't think that people have looked at this thing logically, right? I talk about this all the time when I've been interviewed around the cancel Kevin Samuels stuff and all that good stuff. I made it very clear even then. There is a need for him. If you're going to cancel Kevin Samuels, you need to cancel Cynthia G and Tanya TKO and Nyla Speaks and all these folks that are just like them in the woman sphere, right? I don't believe in the divestment of the Black community, because let me tell you something. I'm going to make things very clear to you folks that are out there and you just like are mindless, but just being brainwashed by whatever side that you're on. There is no side. To pick any side is to lose your legacy as a Black and brown community. If women are to say we have zero need for men, if men are to say we have zero need for women, if common sense doesn't kick in and you guys don't have a natural inclination to understand that the survival of a species of human beings is contingent upon both man and woman equally, the fuck makes you think the Black community is anything different than any other community? Some of it is just really like common sense, and it's one of the things that to me it's just like people cannot be that broken. Okay, I get it. There is a tremendous amount of frustration and trauma in the Black community, but what there is not is stupidity. Black and brown people are some of the smartest folks that I've known in my entire life in America. Just gonna say. So, you know, grow up. That's just what I'll say, okay? Does Kevin Samuels need to fix, modify, help out some of his stats? Sure. Some of his standards? Sure. But at the end of the day, guess what? He may not be, and I think he's made it pretty clear in the vast majority of his videos now that he may not be trying to connect people authentically across the board with other people across the board, right? He may just be only speaking to a select group of folks that only want a select group of folks that look like this, right? So when people say high value, there are so many different perceptions of what that looks like. Kevin Samuels' perception, his picture is not the only picture. But if that's what you are looking for, then more power to you. If you think that this is what will help you acquire that thing, what Kevin Samuel says will do that, then go out there and do your best and go forth and whatever you need to do. Okay. I am a certified family life educator. I am a marriage and family therapist. I've graduated grad school and I got a shitload of tenure behind me in theory and practical and science. Right. So those constraints do not, and Kevin, we don't see, like, we will never see life the same. Literally, he is a fashion expert, something like sales associate or something. Who knows? We just don't share the symmetry. We don't have the same level of intellect. Things are different. Okay. We function differently. So I respectfully agree to disagree. We're just not going to have those conversations. I'm not going to run races around a person that isn't even on the same level to have the conversation. That's the reality of it. Okay. But so if people continue to follow people like Cynthia G and these other extremists and Kevin Samuels and stuff, what happens is this. You lose sight of who you are becoming and you lose time. Time is something that we cannot ever get back. So the most important thing is for us to remember Your time waste is this your is that it's just that. Black people are a dying breed and we're being killed by us. So I guess it really doesn't matter. The question is, does it matter to you? Okay. So moving on. Now, this poly structure is really the point of contention for tonight. I know that in the initial conversation, we talked about some of the, I made myself some notes, you guys. One sec. Yeah, I got it. I made y'all some pictures too, by the way. I don't know if y'all can see that. No, just look at white paper, piece of paper. Oh, you can see the dots, but not really. Yeah. Well, I'm not an artist or anything like that. If I hold it back here, you can probably see them. Yeah. Y'all see my dots? I know you can't see my writing. Whatever. I'm not the best artiste, but I could not figure out how to, let's see. Well, he's speaking somebody's truth for sure. On each occasion, it's a different said truth. And I agree. People can't handle the truth. It's not just women. Whose godfather is he? You said, I think the phrase he should use the already made man instead of high value. But I don't think that he should, here's the thing. I don't think, because I think that that component is high value for somebody, right? So everybody has different goals. Like when I say that I can attest to the realities of hundreds and thousands of folks, like as a marriage and family therapist, you see everything. Like we see everything, like from the beginning when it's time to vet relationships to the point where people are in relationships and wanting to keep those relationships healthy, or where those healthy relationships now start to move and float on the decline, and now they're trying to revamp them and rejuvenate them and reconstruct what stability and healthy relationships look like, right? And we're going to talk about a bit of that in this, so the reality is this piece. What's healthy to you? What's your norm, right? So if you think the value of a person lies within their financial capacity to provide for you and that's it, that's all you need, by all means, go on out there. More power to you. If you think that the value of a woman lies within her sexual marketplace and that's it, more power to you. Go out there, do your thing. But what happens when all of that stuff fails, or they're in a car accident 5 years later or a year later? I think that we have to be very careful when we're trying to formulate relationships, and we want to say that this is something that leads to healthy marriages, because to get married doesn't need to be a point of contention. To find a partner to share your entire life with does. Okay. So I think people talk about marital stats, and that's one of the main reasons why domestic partnerships are now being incorporated and very much respected, because people realize that people who are not Christian, they refuse to have anybody read out of a Bible and commit them based off of the standards of a Bible that's founded upon Christianity. That's America, for one. The other component is this, some folks they write their own vows. They chart their own territory and where they're going. So let's jump into this, okay? So many people think that in the polyamorous structures, there are no couples with a one-to-one connection, right? And on the contrary, the vast majority of all intimate, and when I talk about intimate, I mean lines of communication. Lines of intimacy equate to lines of communication, but also transparency, viability, and fluidity. So what that looks like is these people are responsible for decision making together, whatever that looks like. Okay. And I'm just going to put it out there. In a triad, all people are equally responsible for decision making. And it's a fluid chain of communication, even though a fluid chain is a different type of dynamic. And I don't think I put that one up. Yep. We're going to talk about that one too. Okay. But it's a different dynamic altogether. It doesn't look like a V. So a V literally is, a triad. So a V and a triad are similar, but in a triad, you have fluid chain type of communication where everybody is intimately linked to the other person, right? And communication lines kind of flow backwards, forwards, sideways, very open. Everybody's very transparent with one another. There are no secrets, but also there is a lot of weigh in on the communication and decision making component, right? So we say three people simply because it's easy for us to make it make sense for you guys if we start at three. But all of these dynamics can have a number of folks involved. A triad and a V are the only ones that are specific to three members because you're moving into expansion into those other dynamics. Okay. So what's going on, official urban therapist? How are you? So in a couple, when people are polyamorous, they do come in one-on-one couples. So you have two people who have been independently, typically partnered as friends or parts of two separate friendships where no intimacy, no sex, no sharing responsibility for legacy lines or any of that stuff has been a part of the process, right? And these people, they come together and they're looking to vet a particular type of poly together. Normally, this is where all polys start because we talked about the posse before we talked about the just friends dynamic. We talked about what other one did I talk about last week? Can't remember. But I know we talked about quite a few of them last week. If you guys remember, then just let me know. Okay. So a couple is two people on the opposite ends of things, and those people are responsible for one another, but also responsible for communicating what it is that their needs are going forward so they can properly vet the additional legs. Legs are the lines of intimacy and communication, fluidity, and exchange in a relationship, by the way. Amazing. I'm just getting over being sick myself. Still a little flustered, but it is what it is. I feel 1,000,000% better though. Okay. So the difference between a couple and a power couple, because I was specifically asked to talk about this one today. The couple is those two people who have drawn the lines of symmetry or intimacy between one another, and they're very honest, they're very transparent with one another, and they've decided that they mean a tremendous amount to one another, and as a result they're going to make all decisions together, right? And to be honest with you, it's often when couples are moving into blended families, oftentimes it starts to look a lot like this. Okay. Well, we have one couple who draws in, because that's the difference in a power couple. We have one couple who has an outside connection permanently with one partner in the couple who has an outside connection with another entity, and then another partner has an outside connection with the other entity. And it's more of an open communication because what happens is they're not intimately tied to those folks. So whatever energies, whether it's sexual or otherwise, they don't have to communicate what they're doing in their personal life to the people that are a part of this power dynamic. Only the people in their power couple dynamic, that one-on-one, are responsible to communicate whatever messages go on outside of the system to the other. So in blended family dynamics, typically this is where they start as a power couple structure. So you would have the two single dots on the outside, right, and have these two dots connecting here One dot's responsible for that single dot. One dot over here is responsible for that single dot person, right? The third wheel, however, is typically the situation that, since you guys want to talk about Kevin Samuels so much, is when the power couple are an element, and then you got one person who's a part of that power couple, or both, having independent and freelance communication with that outside entity. So nobody has to communicate or convey what messages are, relayed, but these people are still a part of that same structure, right? But that one entity that's on the outside has the freedom and flexibility to do whatever they need to do intimately and otherwise, and they don't have to come back and share that with the couple. Whatever the couple's, dealings are with that one person are specific to the one person. So if we're talking about blended families and there was one outside non-custodial parent due to a child before the marriage for a single mom, that's what that would look like. It would. So the other two that we're going to talk about today are going to be the double date, where you have the two couples. That's also another one that is not blended family related per se, but if we were looking at family systems, it could be one where you have co-parenting family systems. So a beta male is needed to make a power couple correct. To be honest with you, you could have either. You could have a combination of, because these dynamics are not specific to sex or gender. These dynamics could be two men, it could be two women, it could be four men in a dynamic, could be four women, it could be a combination of beta males and alpha males in the dynamic, it could be all alpha males in the dynamic. It's about like-mindedness and communication and honesty. Transparency is what's the most important context in polyamorous relationships, because we have to be very transparent with people that we're going to build relationships with. And I know that that's one of the points of contention that has been lost in monogamy for the most part, but you have to find meaningful ways to connect with people and convey a message of expectation in a healthy way. In polyamorous relationships, they thrive better even through their issues, because they do have issues like everybody else, okay? They just thrive better through their issues because they have a fluid type of communication. Higher level of, or higher degrees of communication and accountability, but also more flexibility in what it looks like as they're developing the different types of dynamics that they're finding themselves a part of, okay? But the double date, to get back to that, it's just like you guys are putting two couples together, okay? Just like it sounds. However, it's a continuous dance. So the double date becomes a continuous dance of congruence between partners that are, typically responsible for getting to know one another. And what happens is eventually it becomes a fluid chain, because one partner connects in such a way that they're close to one partner from the other couple. So now we draw the lines of intimacy and fluid communication through from one person in one couple to the other person in the other couple. And that's when we become a fluid chain. But previously, when we're just double dating or in that dynamic, what happens is these two different entities that are responsible only to one another, their respective partners in their couple dyad, they don't typically come to the other or consult with the other couple for decision making, right? And they don't tell, well, hey, by the way, we're having sex with so and so, or by the way, we're building with or vetting this other couple tomorrow. They don't talk about that, but they find themselves in similar situations that are mutually drawing an investment until they find lines of symmetry. In situations where you have the co-parenting dyad, where it applies to blended families, right? You will see two remarried partners, and there'll be more of a fluid chain, because the two remarried partners will be the fluid communication link for both said couples. And that's typically how, you know. Oh, what happened to the other one? Hey, Stranger Talk, though, how are you? But yeah, so those are the dynamics that we're going to talk about today. For those of you who came in late on the chat, I'm going to ask you guys to rewind, go back to the very beginning so that you can see the updates that we've talked about so far. Okay. And I just have to impress upon you guys the importance of protecting your peace and doing the best thing that you guys can do for those people that you are responsible to, you are connected to, and be responsible, make good choices out here in these streets. It is dangerous out here, okay? Like, it is dangerous out here. Keep your mouth, your breath, your space to yourself. Don't go out there killing anybody. Don't go out there infringing on somebody else's peace. Do your absolute best to make sure that you're a positive contribution to society. And my heart goes out to the young lady who is the teen of OnlyFans member. Here is my thing. This is what I'm challenging young people to do, because, you know, when I speak to people who become parents and, you know, they feel like I missed out on something in my high school years, because I have people that I have been friends with for years, and I've watched them make poor decisions for years and tried to intervene. And those people just, you know, they're like, well, you can't judge me because your life's perfect. Your life is what you make it. Everybody has their own distress. Everybody has their quarrels. Everybody has their stuff. The way that we deal with those things and the way that we allow those things to impact the way that we affect our systems is what says something about the content of our character. However, we have to be accountable for the way that we impact the people that are connected to us. As parents, parenting comes with a shitload of responsibility. So I challenge you guys to grow up. I challenge you guys to get out of the mindset of the fast money life where, you know, that's important to you. I challenge you guys to have more respect for yourself and for your children, where you prioritize them, where they become the most important thing in your life. And you understand that because they are the most important thing in your life, because they're your innate responsibility, at least until they become 18 and you kind of let them out there and prepare in a prepared way for the world, find ways to apply yourself and respect the fact that they don't want you on this internet bearing your asses. You know? Well, that's it, you guys. That's all I've got. Thank you so much for sitting through with me today. Yeah, I'm feeling amazing. Treat the symptoms. If you guys are struggling from any symptoms related to COVID-19, if you've been exposed to folks who are vaccinated or they get you sick or whoever gets you sick, whatever, treat the symptoms and boost your immunity, feel better, get out here and live your best life and be the best version of yourself. That is all that I have. And again, shout out to the chat. You guys are always amazing. And you've been also equally amazing today. Later days. Bye.
Who alive can't put me in a box. I redefine any definition you got. I am the tiger, I'm making steps to the top. The flames, I rip it up, you just gotta hand me the rock. Take a seat, you cannot stand it. All I know, the flow harder than a Scotch bunny. Don't try studying me, you cannot manage. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon. This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.
I said it, phenomenon.